Here's one suckling, and obviously that one might be a bull one day. Yes, I rather think it is. Not much doubt about it. But there you go. Isn't that nice? Mother and son. My crikey, he's a bit rough. I think he's missing most of it. I can see it going down on the floor. Now he's getting the hang of it. Looks like he's ready just for grass to me. She's obviously very patient. Now, just looking across the field here is this stand of trees, which has been very deliberately planted. I think they're mostly alder with a Scots pine in there that's obviously a strug. Now, if you look carefully, perhaps you can see where the stream probably used to run, down here and along here and down here and then into the middle of this stand of trees, which, as you can see, has been very deliberately planted. The Scots pine in the middle is obviously self-seeded itself, but the alder trees are planted in the shape of a cross, and it's quite obvious that that's the case, because if I look very carefully, I may be able to find evidence that there's a wall, although it looks rather overgrown. But there was a low wall which must have made the shape of a cross at some time. And I guess this is I don't know, a few hundred years ago, I guess. Here are the actual remains of the wall, and you can see how close to the edge these alder, I assume they're alder, were planted. Here you can see the wall a little more clearly. And I rather fancy this was a ceremonial site of some kind. What is very interesting is that it seems to be aligned with energy lines, ley lines, which run up and down Rudyard Lake and across here and up, and they cross the road up there. And I can't actually get near to the centre of this cross because it's so boggy and the cows have made a right mess of it, but I can say for definite that it is aligned with energy lines in the ground. and we do get a lot of very strange aerial phenomena in this location. Even back in the early 1960s, fishermen at this end of the lake were reported to have dived into the bushes because an orange ball of light came skimming across the water towards them. And there have been many more sightings of strange things round here since then, and that still goes on to this day. So obviously this is an important location which has been forgotten. That is looking more or less straight down the lake, but slightly off to the railway side. And if I turn round, you can see that this is where one of the axes of this cross is pointing. I'm looking straight down the middle of it here. The other axis goes across there and points up to the road up there, where it's very interesting that when I'm driving by with my radio on, it goes off station in exactly that location. So it's, I think, a very energetic and interesting place. So there we are, practically back on the road again. There's the cross of trees, and that's looking straight down the lake, and here is the lake. This is the shallow end of the lake, and in very dry summers this area dries up entirely. More trees along the bankside, oak trees, a sycamore at the end, an ash tree there, a rowan hiding low down there, an oak at the back, another ash, more ash, and then oak, and a really old gnarled oak near the gate. Just look at this old oak tree here. It's taken a pasting over the years with all these boughs snapped off. Perhaps a lightning strike at some time. That's looking back up the road, and in the distance you can see the wood which we walked through earlier. And so now we'll just go over this stile, Staffordshire way. You see the Staffordshire knot there. Yes, oh, that's it. There we go. There we are. And carry on walking round to the bottom of the lake. Oh, I see there's a lovely rowan tree in the distance, beautiful berries on it. I'll just go and have a look at that. Yeah, that's really nice. Plenty of berries on there for the birds in the winter time. Perhaps thrushes or blackbirds, or maybe visiting field fairs, or redwings maybe. Yeah, lovely. And this is an elderberry bush with the elderberries on there. I can remember collecting those as a boy for elderberry wine. Just look at the trunk on this beech tree. It's a big old thing. It's a pity that the peace of Rudyard is being disturbed today by the earth moving, which is going on at a property above the lake, but nevertheless it's very pleasant. Beautiful day. And here the road is curving round the bottom of the lake, which is over on my right hand side, and look at this very old woodland. Very, very old indeed. And then on the other side we have a couple of ramshackle buildings which have obviously been very old holiday homes, and they're a far cry from what we looked at earlier on today. Yeah, but a pleasant scene anyway, with the sheep grazing in the field there. Yeah. So here we have the very old holiday homes, and they've seen better days, and that's for sure, but it's a nice location. And maybe one day somebody will turn them into something very desirable. It's peaceful down here. We have no time to stand and stare like sheep. And so the road goes on. Look at this tar, this bitumen coming out of this telegraph pole. I don't think that will ever rot. They certainly gave it plenty. More Himalayan balsam. I'm afraid it's a pest, an absolute pest. Yeah. Quite dense in there, boggy, and yes, spooky. Yeah, but everything can look nice. I mean, look at this, these seeds on this this plant here. Lovely. And now we're coming to the bridge over the feeder, which feeds water into the lake, which is down there. In the winter time, people come here and leave birdseed on the top of the wall, and we get a real interesting mix of birds. Yeah, there we are. So that's the feeder, and beyond is the lake. And then on the other side, yes, we've got water in the feeder, so the water level is really quite high for this time of year, showing that we've had plenty of water, plenty of rain. So that's about the halfway point of our journey around the lake. But the other side is perhaps not quite as interesting, but nevertheless it's a good walk. Now this is the road into the bottom end of the lake, car parking area, and now we're going to get onto the railway, the disused railway line, and there's one of the bridges. And I can remember when I was a boy fishing on Rudyard Lake, watching the steam engine going up and down on this side of the lake. It's a long time ago. I'm afraid this side of the lake isn't as interesting perhaps, but it is easier walking. Again, we have these old trees on this embankment. It's quite a popular walking place. Here's an old gate leading to what were old fishermen's huts by the look of it. Been here a long time. And so the railway line carries on. They still do quite a lot of fishing here. There's an open match, and this is the side where they fish from. Catch a lot of bream, roach, perch, and occasional pike. In fact, Rudyard Lake is famous for the pike. Huge monsters. So you just never know what you're going to find when you come for a walk around Rudyard Lake. In this case, I think it's a baby wren. Absolutely splendid. I've never seen one as young as this before, and calling to its parents, obviously. That's a wonderful thing. And there he goes. I'm going to look at this old stone gatepost. I reckon that's some age. Some blackberries there in the hedge, on the wall. Yeah. And this is the end of the line for the miniature railway. And here's some of the fish that are caught here. The roach, bream, pike, and the heron there, and a fox, and the squirrel. Okay, so this is the end of the line, and it's Hunt House Wood. And just across the lake there we have the sailing club, and I'm probably 3/4 of the way round the walk. There's some really old trees in here. Now look at that one, that's really old. that's the old boathouse that we walked past earlier on in the walk, where my friend Jim used to live. So that house over there is the one where the owner kindly allowed me to come down onto the balcony and film the lake. Very, very nice indeed. And so in most areas around the lake, where we look, we find thick, old woodland with many fallen trees. Nearing the end of the walk now, and we're going to head up these steps onto the top, where I know I can get a really nice view of the lake. So we've finally arrived at the dam and the dam head, and this is at the end of the walk more or less. We'll just go onto the dam itself and then that will do. Quite a bit of squabbling going on there. So there we are, the track carries on down there to the railway station for the miniature railway. This, as you can see, is the dam, and over here is the overflow for the lake, and it seldom goes over the top of here, but when it does, it's quite spectacular. this is a recent and very impressive carving of the tree of a tightrope walker, commemorating the fact that a tightrope walker actually walked across this lake, I don't know, about 100 years ago, and it was recreated just a few months ago. That's a great carving. So there we are at the end of our walk round Rudyard. Hope you've enjoyed it, and might be a good cure for insomnia. Okay, this is Robert Hulse signing off. Cheerio.